kind of enforce productivity within the organization is something that next generation firewall vendors are really interested in helping you do as well. This company right here, Zynga. How many of you know Zynga by name? Zynga is basically the gaming partner with Facebook, right? So Zynga did an IPO back in December. This is a company, all they do is they write games that appear on Facebook. That's all they do, right? And they buy other games. So they did an IPO and $3 billion. They're saying Zynga prior to the IPO was worth $3 billion. $3 billion. As of 2013, this is after the IPO, Zynga was trading at about $13.60, 36% above its IPO. It's now market value is greater than $7 billion. It's a game manufacturer. Zynga's Facebook games attracted 246 million monthly average users. That's a lot of people, right? There are a lot of people spending a lot of time playing Zynga games on Facebook. The only way they can come up with this revenue, that doesn't just come to them magically. There got to be people investing time in using these games, right? So the problems that we face today in terms of security and productivity, these are the things that add up to the vision behind next generation firewall technologies. Can I really stop the threats? What applications are really running on my network? Where's all my bandwidth going? Where's this traffic coming from? Let me just talk to you a little bit about the history of firewalls. So firewalls actually came in production, actually were commercially available starting in 1992. So it's been a long history of having firewalls out there. In 92, the firewalls at that point that were being released were known as stateful packet inspection firewalls, so SPI. So a stateful packet inspection firewall is concerned about 5 things. 2 addresses, source and destination IP addresses, and they have a source and destination port, also in the header. And the third thing that a stateful packet inspection firewall does is maintains the state of the conversation between hosts. Okay? So it's got a table called a state table or connection hash, whatever you want to refer to it as. It's got a table that it builds internally to monitor conversations. Right? So you have inside the network established a conversation with a web host on the outside of the network. You're getting replies. It's monitoring that conversation, making sure everything's copacetic from a state standpoint, right? So that's really all stateful packet inspection firewall is doing. It sees traffic on port 80. It reports I got web traffic, right? That's all it knows about. It can't know about anything else because all it's doing is looking at the header in the packet. It's not concerned with the data portion of the packet at all. Okay? So this is 1992 technology, and anybody who's running any firewall, even today, with current firewall, next generation firewall technology, whatever you want to call it, if they aren't running security services on these firewalls, they're a stateful packet inspection firewall and their issues. That's not where the threats live today. Threats live in the data portion of the packet. Unless you're doing deep packet inspection and actually know how to analyze the contents of the data portion of the packet and positively identify the traffic, you're not secure. There are a lot of vendors out there that can help make you more secure. You just got to implement the product properly. Okay. So this is kind of the vision. On viruses, stop the threats, control all applications on the network. Based on my description of what a stateful packet inspection firewall does, if it only knows that it's port 80, it's not going to do much for you in a Web 2.0 world, is it? Because port 80 is being used for everything. Port 443 is being used for everything, right? Every piece of software out there, if it's in a Web 2.0 environment, is using one of those 2 ports. If the firewall only knows it's port 80 or port 43, it's going to say, this is what's happening, it's web traffic. You got to know more than that. Control bandwidth on the network. So there's applications maybe you want to emphasize. They're important to your business or your educational mission. You want that traffic to flow freely and have unfettered access to do that. There's other stuff on there that maybe is tertiary or secondary to your vision or your mission within whatever organization you're in. Maybe you want to control that bandwidth. And there's certainly some traffic that you don't want to go through at all. You want to be able to block that traffic. So bandwidth management is incredibly important. And then understand all the traffic improvement. So in other words, come into this world with your eyes wide open, understand what's going on out there, and be able to do something about the traffic that you don't want to have on your network. You can see here we've got kind of flags representing this. One of the things that SonicWALL Firewall do is we're geo-IP aware and we're botnet control center aware as well. So in terms of being able to understand all the traffic through it, if your organization has no legitimate need to receive or send traffic to the Russian Federation, you can block it very easily by checking their checkpoints within the geo-IP database. Now picking on the Russian Federation, but I think these are much of the world's security threats originate at this point from the Russian Federation. So it is a challenge. So as soon as you go from doing stateful packet inspection, go back to the full firewall history, as soon as you change from just doing stateful packet inspection to doing deep packet inspection, you've gone from examining about 2% of the traffic as it comes through, because all you're looking at is the header, to examining 100% of the traffic. Now you're interested in the stateful packet inspection part, as well as the data portion of the packet as well. So unified threat management firewalls were kind of the next step. That's where firewalls actually started to do deep packet inspection and looking at the data portion of the packet as well. So great. I mean, it was really needed. It was really necessary. But users with high bandwidth, when they started to implement UTM products, found out very quickly that that became a long support. Okay, so you can, I mean, if you go out and pay for a high-end deep packet inspection firewall, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and still your 30 meg or 50 meg pipe or 100 meg pipe or whatever it happened to be would actually be throttled by the technology that you just deployed. So part of the hurdles that firewall vendors had to work on overcoming was because bandwidth speeds continue to increase. Firewall vendors had to figure out a way to how you guys doing? Firewall vendors had to figure a way to not be a bottleneck on the edge, right? So it's even more complicated now because we moved from unified threat management, which is basically a firewall that's able to look at the data portion of a packet and do all kinds of stuff based on the information that's pulled in. So when it's looking at the data portion of the packet, it can do things like scan for virus traffic. So you've got another layer of defense. You want to run your desktop virus software, right? But best practices say layer that security, put it on the edge as well. So stop your threats at the edge. So you can do gateway antivirus, you can do intrusion prevention, you can protect your servers. That Microsoft's security advisory that I put up earlier, those are exactly the signatures that we're developing to protect systems inside, whether it be Microsoft-based OS, server OS, or Linux or Unix, whatever they happen to be. We develop intrusion prevention systems so we can detect the intrusion, we can prevent the intrusion. Anti-spyware, so we can help your users keep from becoming infected through the use of a web browser and getting spyware installed on their systems. Because we're looking in the data portion of the packet, the next step is then we need to go into layers 4 through 7 of the OSI model and start to figure out what application traffic that packet represents, right? So being able to positively identify the traffic as it comes through, block the threats, malware, IPS threats, or identify and positively tag a particular stream of traffic as YouTube, Facebook, Salesforce.com, whatever it happens to be, whatever that stream comes through, multimedia, streaming media, RTSP, whatever it happens to be coming through the edge of the firewall. Once you get to the point where you're examining 100% of that traffic and you have the appropriate technology in terms of examining that traffic, then you can actually start making decisions on the edge about the traffic. Bandwidth management, block it, whatever you need to do. So the next step beyond next generation, the unified threat management firewalls. By the way, these are industry terms, and primarily they've been coined by a company called Gartner. The Gartner's an analyst firm out there. Customers pay them basically wheelbarrows of money to advise them on what kind of products they should be implementing from the IT world. So they coin these terms, and they're good. I don't want to, in a sense, I want to ban them a little bit, but I don't want to ban them. They have a place in the industry, right? So any analysts are pretty well respected. They do a fairly good job. So they coined this term, unified threat management. It's been around probably for 8 or 9 years now. The next step, Gartner said, probably about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago was, the next step in firewall development is the next generation. So, next generation firewall, simply put, stateful packet inspection, unified threat management, they're all in. And then the next step is application awareness and control, as well as user and group awareness and control vectors. Okay, so add those two things on as well. So it's no longer doing access rules within a firewall that says this IP address is allowed to go to that IP address. None of these IP addresses are allowed to go there, right? That's not what it's about anymore. It's about who is this user, what groups do they belong to, what legitimate need do they have to go where they're trying to go, and are we going to allow it or are we going to block it? That's really the next generation firewall technology. So it's applications, users, and content. Got a little animated slide here for you. So we're going to go through the steps: identifying, categorizing, controlling traffic using the next generation firewall. This is the application of chaos that I was talking about on port 80 and port 443. Right? So you've got a whole bunch of little things here. You've got BitTorrent, SAP, SAP, email, you've got viruses, Salesforce, YouTube, LimeWire, Skype, all this stuff using port 80, port 443. Skype is very port nimble. It can start out trying to use 80, 443. If it finds that it's blocked, it'll hop all over. It'll use whatever port it wants to find. How do you control traffic that's hopping from port to port? You know, if you're using a stateful packet inspection firewall, you lost, right? There's no way you can control it. Because if you spend your time, do a packet trace, figure out what port it's using today, or figure out what port it's using right now, and you set up an ACL and says block that port, great, I'll find another port. And it does. It just goes and finds the port that you use. So this is kind of the application chaos that the firewall vendors are faced with. So one of the things that you start doing right off the bat is we've got some cloud-based expert firewall intelligence available to us. So we've got this threat center. It's a 24/7 threat center. We call it the grid network. We've got about 2 million devices right now in operation worldwide. All those devices are reporting back to our threat center what they're seeing from the traffic packets. We're taking that information, we're munging it in our own special way, and we're coming up with signatures to help protect it. It's a constant effort. It's a 24/7 operation. And then we turn around and we reintroduce this information back into the firewall, either by sending signatures to the firewall so they can evaluate things locally, or by allowing the firewall to point to our resources and say, I've gone through the 24,000 fire signatures that are on local on this firewall now. I've got an extra firewall list of 8 million more that I want to consult as well. I've got a reputation database for IP addresses for spam. I've got a geo-IP database that I can consult to look at for where this traffic is originally from, where this traffic is going to. I've got a botnet controller database. Think of it as a real-time blacklist, where we know this traffic, all this traffic comes from this IP, it's botnet controller, and we're going to block that traffic to engage the botnet checkbox. So we've got this extra intelligence here, and the whole idea here is before that traffic can get into your network, we want to block it. So worms, spyware, viruses, whatever it is, we want to be able to block it before it can get to your users. Second thing then is we want to be able to take information about who the user is, what groups they belong to create policies around that. So what that means is the firewall has to know who the user is, right? There's one or two ways the firewall can figure out who the user is. It can ask the user to authenticate. That's kind of a captive portal experience, right? Where users on the web trying to go somewhere, the firewall says, wait a minute, I have a user-based role. I don't know who this user is. I got to find out. And the only way, if you're using the captive portal idea, the only way to find out is to put up a password prompt and say, give me your username, give me your password. I'll look against this company's this company's namespace. I'll authenticate you. I'll look again, pull the groups in, and figure out what groups you belong to, then I can find you, right? Or the firewall can figure it out using a single sign-on. So we support both, of course, and with a single sign-on methodology, we're cross-platform capable. And one of the best ways to implement it, especially if you're either an eDirectory or an Active Directory shop, is we can look into the directory itself and figure out what user is using what IP address. So basically, if a user comes in the morning and they do domain login like so many users do, At that point, the firewall can figure out who that user is. We've already got enough information because they're already logged on to the workstation. They've got the domain login. We can figure out who they are. In very small organizations, you may not want to go to the trouble of implementing single sign-on technology. You know, the worst that can happen is the user logs into the workstation first thing in the morning. When they want to go to the web, they get a pop-up that says log in again, right? And then they're set for this. So we need to figure out who the user is before we can apply user input policies. Once we have all that information, so we're scanning the traffic, we're using a patented technology called reassembly 3D packet inspection. Very low latency, very high throughput. And we're doing it through firewalls that have multiple cores in the processor. So at the low end, maybe 2 cores, but at the high end of the E-class firewall, we've got 16 cores. And then we have a blade-based firewall that you can implement that has up to 96 cores in it. So we can process traffic very quickly. We've got enough horsepower to do it. We can operate at line speeds in organizations. We have I'll show you later, but we have a range of firewalls. Basically, you pick the one that's going to meet your needs. And there's two really key metrics is how much throughput do you need, how many simultaneous connections do you need managed. And remember, we're keeping that state table still, so we're a stateful packet inspection firewall. So we need to maintain that state table, and that means that we need to set aside memory on the box in order to maintain that connection hash. So basically operate at line speed, do deep packet inspection, positively identify all the traffic that flows through, and then make decisions based on policy, and then also based on, these are our critical apps, we're going to allow those. We'll prioritize bandwidth. These are acceptable apps, we'll just let medium bandwidth take over there. If these grow to the point where they're starting, where in an unmanaged situation where they're affecting that traffic, we aren't going to allow that to happen, right? We're going to throttle down acceptable apps, and then we've got a group of unacceptable apps. Anybody that's using P2P applications in their network, think twice about it. It's one of the major vectors for security vulnerabilities on your network. And it opens up your network and hosts on your network to access from anyone in the world as well. That's all I'll say about it. And the other piece is visualization. So actually being able to see on the firewall what really is going on with it. And so this is the kind of thing that helps a firewall administrator or a security administrator look good, right? Because how many times have you had a person come in and say, hey, the network really seems to know what's going on? Never. It used to happen all the time when I was the systems administrator, and then you kind of look at the person and say, well, I'll get back to you, I'll figure it out. And figuring it out, often took a long time. You'd have to kind of go into syslogs, you have to do an analysis of syslog traffic, figure out who was connected where. Maybe you had some tools that could be bandwidth for you, but more likely you didn't. So it's really hard question to answer. It seems pretty innocent, right? Hey, what's going on? The network seems really simple.
Usually it's the internet broken?
Yeah, it's the internet. Yeah. Well, let's wait an hour and see what happens. It's like, right? I have no idea how to answer that question. But if you can visualize the traffic right on the administrative interface on the firewall, you can actually sort it out. I may have a little bit of time. We have a site called Live Demo.SonicWALL.com where you can actually see administrative interface into all of our equipment. We're not just a firewall company, we have a lot of security solutions. But if we have a little bit of time, I'll go ahead and show you.